This is Matt Brown, and you're listening to Just a Good Conversation. Growing up in a camera store your dad owns must be a photographer's dream. Mark Comon grew up in a camera store his father owned, Paul's Camera, in the South Bay. Spending his days around cameras and photographers sparked the Mark's creative side. And with a good sense of learning business in college, it was an added bonus to Mark's creative side. And the store has become a beacon of photography in the LA area.
Then the COVID thing starts. And I remember, Matt, probably one of the saddest days of my life, March 17th, 2020, the day we fired all of our employees here at Paulsville. Because the governor told us you have to close down. And I talked to my wife, I talked to our accountant, and we decided that we wanted to take care of our employees as best we could. So we paid everybody their vacation time and their sick time, gave them their final paycheck, and said, go get unemployment.
I'm Matt Brown, host of Just a Good Conversation. Take a listen to our archives. My guests have ranged from movie stars, entrepreneurs, models, and university photographer Amanda Pitts.
I didn't come in with the best skills ever. I wasn't the best photographer in the whole world, and I knew that, and I think that that's really important as a young photographer. So I started looking for things to help me, help me learn a little bit more, get better at lighting, that kind of thing. So eventually I did find UPAA, and that has been like a game changer for me and has influenced my work in a lot of different ways. Just the inspiration that I've gotten from that group has kept me wanting to stay in higher ed photography.
The rest of my conversation with Amanda can be found on our archives at justagoodconversation.com. Let's take a quick break from my sponsor before diving into my conversation with Mark Comon. Maine Farmhouse Brands was started by Dan McCool, a healthcare professional. His goal was to make premium soap. Most people may not realize how important the right soap is for their health and the difference between soap and detergent. Soap is made from natural ingredients like animal and plant fats, whereas detergent is made from synthetic, often harsh chemicals, even fossil fuels like petroleum. Maine Farmhouse Brands makes their own soap with natural ingredients, free from harsh chemicals. So if you want to keep your skin healthy and clean, I would recommend using Maine Farmhouse Brand soap instead of detergent. You can find their body wash, shave soaps, laundry soap, and beard oils, and more at mainfarmhousebrands.com. I'm with Mark, and I'm in your shop. How are you doing?
Hey, it's great, Matt. It's great to have you here. I'm so excited to be on the podcast with you. This rocks.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
To be like in the back room doing this.
Yep.
This feels very natural. Like you should have your own podcast. I walked in, you were doing your class with your students.
I've thought about having a podcast. I even had the Rodecaster. I bought it with all the stuff. And
what happened?
In COVID, I just didn't have the time. So people were paying extra money, and I just sold it to one of my customers who needed it for something he was doing,
right.
And I just never got rolling on it.
You could do just like 15-minute like thought talk.
I want to do a real podcast. I want to interview my friends and the photography and both equipment and art and creativity. I mean, if I was going to do it, that's where I would go.
Yeah, you got to dive in all the way.
Yeah.
Well, there's still time. You never know.
You never know.
And you travel enough, you can get people on the road.
I don't want to carry all the shit.
Nah, you just do it off your phone.
Really?
You can.
And it's good enough?
You can.
All right.
If you in a pinch, if you ran into David Barnett, you're going to be like,
okay.
I'll talk to you another time, David.
Okay, all right. Yeah, you're right. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Do it. You sit down and do it.
Okay, yeah.
So I love the fact that we're sitting in your dad's place. Like he built this place.
Yeah.
He took it on.
Right.
Tell me about that history that you know and grew up and heard the lore. What was Dad thinking?
It was my whole life, right? So my dad bought the business 1961. I was 1 year old. He was already working here at the time.
Right, yeah.
The owner retired. He took it over. This is our third location. I would hang out as a kid in the camera store.
Okay, so now what was your mom? Was your mom like
stay-at-home mom?
No, but was she thinking good idea, Paul, buy the place?
I don't know. They never talked about it. Oh, no. I'm sure it was because you can't you can't do that without your spouse's support.
Right.
I mean, it was a true family business. So my mom did the books, my mom did the money,
Right.
my dad did the sales, my dad was in the camera store all day. You know, that was a thing. We would come as kids and hang out. You know, I tell the story. So we still go to dinner with my students at a restaurant I went to with my dad when I was a kid. So I would walk down on Saturday afternoon, because the house where I grew up as a kid is 40-minute walk from here.
Okay.
So it's a mile and a half. I would walk down on Saturday afternoon. I had $1.25 in my pocket. I would walk down, have lunch with my dad and one of his friends at the Mexican restaurant. It was called Freddy's La Cabana. Freddie sold it to Rosa, and now it's called Rosa's La Cabana. We still eat there once a month. Actually, Tuesday night, we're going to go there with my class on Tuesday night. So I would walk down. We would have lunch. I have the same thing today that I had back then when I was a kid. I would have the Aya Tostada because it's awesome. It's not even on the menu anymore. They just make it for me. So
Mark's got his own off the menu.
Exactly. Super secret menu, right?
But that's the best.
Oh, absolutely. So I would come down, I would have lunch, and then I would walk home, and there was a hobby shop up the street. I would get a model for 99 cents. Across the street from the hobby shop was an ice cream store, and I would get an ice cream for 25 cents. So that was the $1.25. I would walk home, and I would build and paint the model. Always an airplane. I never did cars or tanks. It was always an airplane. I did the model, and that was my Saturday afternoon when I was a kid. You know, like 8, 9, 10-year-old boy.
That
was awesome.
There's nothing better than that.
No, it was great. It was awesome.
Yeah, you got to walk,
Yep.
see your dad, have
Yep.
lunch with him, so
Yep.
you're like kind of one of the guys.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you had your own free time to
Yeah.
get some dessert.
Do my thing, right? And then
Build your P-51 Mustang.
whatever. I mean, I did everything.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
F-104,
Yeah,
you
whatever.
know? So then the store moved, and
Okay.
we moved a mile farther away, and that was in 1974.
Did you guys just outgrow it?
No, they had, so the original place was right across the street where Carl's Jr. is now.
Okay.
It was a strip mall, and there was a Rexall drug at the end, and it had a fire, burnt down. So they tore down the thing, the mall, the strip mall. We had to move, so we moved up the street. That was 1974. That was the same year I started. I was a freshman in high school. I was 14 years old when I started in the camera store, working part-time after school. We were there till 1987, when there was rumor that center was going to get torn down. And my dad always wanted his own place. I mean, so it's like living in an apartment versus having your own house.
Right.
So this building became available. He bought it. We moved in here in July of 1987. And, it's been history since.
The photo that's on your website, that color photo of him out front sitting on, is that the original building?
That's the original building
Yeah.
across the street. And if you notice in that picture, and the picture is right behind you, Matt, you see right there?
Yeah.
You see the 4x6 of it right there? So you notice in the camera store now, we made a replica of the neon sign.
Yes.
So that was one of the things that.
It's a beautiful photo.
Oh, thank you. See, I don't know who made it. It was just one of his buddies made it. He regretted not taking the neon sign when they moved. Yeah. But it was going to come apart. It was already 20 years old.
Right.
It just, no way. So about 10 years ago, we had a local neon guy make the sign, off of the photo, and it's in the camera store now.
That's awesome.
It's cool, yeah.
Did you ever think when you were growing up 10, 11, 12 that you would want to work at the store? Or is it kind of like, hey, Mark, come work for me at the store?
So back then, you always wanted to do what your dad did. I mean, your dad was a policeman. You were going to be a policeman.
Right.
My dad was in the camera store. Saturday was lunch with Dad in the camera store. Sunday was always playing with cameras. So he would bring home whatever new camera, or he got in this trade-in, and we would go out and photograph. So I got my first camera when I was 10. And I did, grade school yearbook and high school yearbook and all that stuff, and wanted to be, photography was just part of my life since I was a young boy. So When I was in high school, it was a part-time job. When I was leaving out of high school, you said, did you go to this Coast Guard? No, I applied to the to the Air Force Academy.
Okay.
And I got an appointment to the Air Force Academy, but I didn't pass the physical where I could have been a pilot.
Okay.
And I wanted to be a pilot. So I didn't do that. So I went to college and couldn't decide what I wanted to do. And I still remember I was sitting at El Camino College and decided, I'm just going to do the camera store thing and do the best I could. So I finished up at El Camino, went to Long Beach State, got my business degree, and the rest is history. But it was a day that I remember the day sitting there saying, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm tired of, not knowing what I want to do.
The best decision, though, you made was a business degree.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Because you could figure out the photography end.
I had the photography stuff.
It was in your blood. It's around you. You rubbed on it forever. But to have the business sense to move into, that was super smart.
And how many friends of ours that we have that are photographers or doctors or lawyers that are great doctors, but they can't run the office.
Right. No clue.
No clue. Or struggle at it or are bad at it.
Right. Yeah. 9 out of 10 photographers have no idea where their money goes.
Correct.
And some of the most richest photographers I've ever known who have worked at unbelievable 6-figure a year jobs, and now they're absolutely struggling because they don't know at all to make that money anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So, you're right. Business school was awesome for me. That's when I was getting to the end of Long Beach State, when we were at the other place, when we really started to change how things were going here, saw what needed to be in the industry. And my dad was super busy running the camera store. He didn't have time to try new things. He taught photography when he was in college and just starting, but running the business, having a family, didn't have time. So I started with the classes in 1988 when we came here, but knew when we were over there that we needed to have classes. Why?
That was your idea?
Yeah, but he supported it because he knew it was a great idea. Right? He just didn't have the time to do it.
How many employees were there at that point?
There were 6.
Okay.
And today there's 19.
Yeah.
So back in the day, the average camera had 3 rolls of film shot through it, and then it went under the bed.
Yeah.
Because the average guy who, whether they bought it at Pulse Photo or bought it someplace else, couldn't figure it out, didn't understand it. And that was in the days of film, when realistically the juice that ran the camera store was the film and the developing.
Right.
So, camera is just the means to get people to shoot film, right? But if you only shot 3 rolls of film, nobody's happy, right? You're not happy because you're not having fun. We're not happy because you're not making pictures, right? So classes is the way to help people, because now you understand how to use it.
Yeah.
And everybody who went through the class learned how to use the camera.
Yeah, you're removing that frustration.
Yeah, and making it easy for them. And that's one of the things we learned, is to make it easy in the use, to make it easy in the buy, right? So you didn't come here and didn't feel like you were talking to a used car salesman.
Right.
You didn't feel like you were talking to some high school kid like at Best Buy or Costco or whatever. So making it easy was the secret to our success here at Pulse Photo. And whether you're a pro, for you guys as pros, right? Your easy is, do you have it? Can I get it now? Boom, let's get it done, right?
Right, out the door.
Right. And so for your wife, though, who wants to buy a camera, she needs the help to make it easy. So easy is different for everybody, and we really figured out early on how to make it easy for the beginner, the hobbyist, and the pro. And that was one of our secrets to success.
So in that class development idea, were you thinking, okay, we're going to do like a photography 101? What's a shutter speed? What's an aperture?
Absolutely.
Why this film?
Yep.
Yeah.
So it was called at that time Introduction to Photography.
Okay.
And then we did basic photography, and then we did intermediate and advanced. Now the basic morphed into what we have now, which is Photo Boot Camp. So we kind of gave up the intro because people don't want that anymore. They want to go straight into the meat, right? And boot camp is 6 weeks. It really is intense. gets you going, but it teaches you the f-stops. It teaches you composition, teaches you exposure, teaches you how to think like a photographer. And whether you're a first-time beginner or you've been doing it a while, I really find that there's some great success there for everyone who comes to Photo Boot Camp.
Well, you and I are blessed to know that photography is an unbelievable vehicle. Like
absolutely.
You could be a part of people's lives. You can make memories forever. It's a very communal thing. You can all go out together and shoot landscapes. Or the last thing you want to do is be so frustrated that you want no part anymore of this damn black little brick that's not working for you.
Right. And the other thing, Matt, is for me, and what I tell people, and one of the things we've done real well here at Paul's Photo, everybody is, photography makes every part of your life better.
Oh, yeah.
And some of our customers are just photographers, but some of them are fishermen or tennis players or motorcycle riders or hikers or mountain climbers or bird watchers, but they all want great pictures.
Sure.
They want great pictures of their travels, their kids, and understanding that black box. And I don't think of it as a black box. It's a time machine. Think about it, Matt. That box holds today to save it for the future. And how powerful is that? That you can snap the picture of your infant's first steps, or that first kiss, or whatever, or that first strikeout that your son throws, right? You get to save that in this little box and then share it years later. And how cool is that?
Oh, it's one of the most powerful things we'll ever do.
Yeah, and magic. Absolute magic.
I mean, do you remember your father walking around the house, whether it was a Christmas, a holiday, a birthday, or whatever, friends coming over swimming, and him taking pictures, and how it was so important to, like, everybody, look, my dad's taking a picture. It was a moment he was going to capture.
And even better than that, we would have every now and then the kids, my sisters and I, would ask for slideshow night.
Yes.
And it was a production.
Yeah.
So mom would make dinner, and she would either make popcorn or dessert.
Root beer floats were always...
Root beer floats, whatever it was.
I knew when the root beer float mugs came out, I'm like, it's slide night.
Yeah, exactly.
Do
you remember, Matt, the smell of the screen?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
It had a slide screen.
Yes.
Has a smell, and it permeates the whole living room.
Yeah.
And the slides and
what is that smell in the slide machine?
no, it's the
screen.
It's
what
the
is
coating. It's like the lacquer that puts the thing on.
Yeah.
I know, but it has a smell.
I still have mine.
Oh yeah.
I'll never get rid of it.
And anybody who did slideshow night knows that smell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then just hearing, and then the best was going through, and then the horizontal is supposed to be vertical, so everybody turns their head to look at it. Or it's backwards, and you're like, that Yosemite sign's backwards, Dad.
Right, yeah, come on.
And you're busting his balls on it, and he's like, all right, it's just one.
Right. So, but and you know what? That's lost today.
Yes.
Well, because hey, Matt, I'm going to pull out my phone, and I'm going to show you in my Instagram feed.
Let me find it. Oh,
yeah,
God.
Yeah, because I got a bajillion on there.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, that's lost. But I think we have so much more today because, with my Nikon Z9, I can do pictures that I couldn't have dreamt of with a Canon 8E1 or a Nikon FM.
No.
Remember back in those days, right?
There's the ability to shoot things, whether it's snow or a no moon night, that was virtually impossible 30 years ago.
Oh, or what about the 37th picture?
Right. Yeah.
Right? Doesn't exist.
Right.
Right. Number 37, gone.
Yeah.
Right? It's got to...
Right.
Okay, I'm ready to go again. What just happened, right? Well, Ohtani just hit his 45th home run while you were changing film, Matt.
And you know how many of those memories were okay to let go? Where you were like, oh, you missed, or you got the home run, you got him jubing, but you didn't get him high-fiving at home plate. And you're like, well, that's okay.
Yeah.
I had to rewind.
Yeah.
Today, you would be fired if you're missing that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
But then it was just acceptable.
It was.
Yeah.
Right. And, since I just got back from Africa.
Yes, you did. That was a hell of a
three
trip.
trips. It was awesome. And I was talking to my students in Africa about, so I never went to Africa shooting film. My first trip was in 2005. I was on Nikon D2X by then. And you know, we were talking about 6 megapixels, 12 megapixels, right? What do you do with that? But this was our first trip to Africa this year, where everyone on the trip had full frame mirrorless cameras.
What? Everybody.
And something happened, something didn't happen on this trip for the first time. Nobody broke a camera. On every other trip to Africa, we've always had, a
camera go down.
Cameras go down, whether it's a drop or just a break, because the Canon, Nikon, Sony mirrorless cameras are so much more rugged and so much more forgiving than an SLR camera is.
Yeah.
And Africa's tough. I mean, it beats up people, it beats up vehicles.
Environmentally, it's brutal.
Yeah, it's just rough on equipment, and we didn't have a break. The other thing I talked to people about on the trip was when we did photo safaris, when we did workshops, adventures, we went to Yellowstone with film. We went to Yosemite with film. We went to Death Valley with film.
Mm-hmm.
Always on a film trip, one guy out of the trip would get nothing because their camera was broken and they didn't know it. You didn't know it until you got when?
Wow.
Home, right?
Yeah.
And it broken means the aperture was stuck, so everything was shot at f/22. Or the aperture was stuck, everything was shot at f/2.8.
Right.
Or he didn't know how to load the film right. Or the film winder was broken and it seemed like it was working, or the shutter was broken, right? So,
right, you just didn't know.
We would all get our 20 rolls of film back from our weekend in Yosemite and, oh, I'm sorry, Matt, yours are all blank.
And by the way, you need a new shutter.
Right, exactly.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, see that now immediately, instantly,
absolutely.
on the fly.
Well, if you do it right.
Well, that's true.
Last trip to Africa, not this trip, last trip, and I make a teaching point of this. I had two students on the trip, didn't bring a laptop. So they didn't look at their pictures every night. Two of them, the two people who didn't bring a laptop, had a missetting on their camera that we could have fixed, but they never looked at their pictures, so we never found it.
What was the setting?
One was in JPEG small the whole time, and one was in square.
Oh, my God.
I mean, just a simple little setting on the camera, which if they would have looked at it the first night, we would have figured it out.
Hey, Mark, what's going on here?
Yeah, my pictures are tiny. What's the matter? Well, you're on JPEG small. Let's adjust it. Let's put you back on RAW where you should be, right? And it's just a button. Somebody,
Yeah.
and you're off. So.
Oh, what a lesson to learn.
Yeah, and so we just learn all those things, and that's part of teaching and leading and making it right for people, making it easy for people. So
right.
Yeah.
When that first couple of years with the workshop, the class is taking place, was there a big response? Were people like all in?
Yeah, people have been all in since 1988.
That's great.
I mean, the class. So back then, though, it was intro to photography, basic photography. We did that like 3 times a year. The next year, we added intermediate photography.
Okay.
That went for a year. Then we added advanced photography. That was 1991, the first advanced photography. And then 1991, we started with LA Zoo Photo Day, our first LA Zoo Photo Day in 1991. We did our first photo workshop, our first photo adventure is what we call it, to Eastern Sierra for fall color. Then the next year, we added Yosemite and Death Valley. And since then, it's just been growing.
See, the trip things are the best.
It's awesome.
Yeah, when you can get out with, how big, what's the class? What do you guys take, like the Sierras or the Death Valley or something?
12 to 20.
Yeah. See, that's perfect. Yeah. Everybody gets to like talk and communicate. Yep. They learn.
Yep.
Your growth is so much more quicker because you can see like, oh, what did they do? Why are they doing this? Oh, they brought a tripod. They didn't. They're low. They're high.
Well, and the other thing is, so we've been in the classroom. We've been doing our homework, sharing our pictures that way. But there's nothing like being out in the field where you get real-time feedback.
Right.
hey, Matt, did you see that rock in the corner? Oh, man, I didn't even see that, Mark. Here, let me move over to the left a little bit.
Right.
Perfect. Or here, come look over here. I'm low. I'm focused low here at F16 to get everything in focus. Oh, I never thought about doing that, right?
Yeah.
And then when we do the workshops, when we do the field trips, most of the time, we have a chance for an image review. So we'll take one morning or one afternoon, and you bring me a thumb drive with 6 photos on it. We look at it on the computer, and everybody sees it. And, oh, Matt, you did a really good job at this, but, oh, my gosh, look at this, right? Here's a mistake. Okay, I'll get that fixed. And then luckily we have a chance to redo that. We go back to the same spot and fix the problem. That's great feedback, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yep.
Is it typically just you, or do you take other instructors?
So I have 6 instructors.
Okay.
So it's not me it's me or. Depends on the trip. They'll have an assistant. So it's the instructor and the assistant, and then off you go.
That's even better because then different instructors will give you different ideas to banter off of. Oh, I do this, I do that. I'm more a vertical guy, whatever.
And the other part is, so I'm very lucky. We're very blessed here at Creative Photo Academy is that we always have a blend of people on the trips. So we'll have advanced students who are probably just as good as the instructor, and they want to step in and help. Because one of the things I've always taught my students is if somebody needs help and you help them with the problem, who learns more, the teacher or the student? And from doing your workshops, Matt, as the teacher, you always learn more.
Sure.
Right? So you're reinforcing in yourself. So how do I explain depth of field? How do I explain spot metering? How do I explain composition? Right? So when I help as an advanced student, help an intermediate student with their composition, I'm helping them, but I'm helping myself. And then the intermediate students help the beginning students.
Right.
And it's so great. It's this giant circle, this ecosystem that feeds on itself to make things better and easier and simpler and more fun for everyone.
Were there any early, issues going out on field trips where you're like, I can't believe nobody died, thank God? Because you can get in the Sierras or Death Valley, you never know what you can come up with. Storms, weather, all kinds of things.
So nobody's died.
That's a good thing.
We've had a couple of broken bones.
Okay,
we've had a lot of, oh my gods, I can't believe we survived that. I mean, we were stuck in Yosemite one year, right? So we had a group. I mean, there's 15 of us.
Sure.
Sunday morning in Yosemite, we're all in line at the coffee shop, getting coffee, getting ready to pack up and get out. And the guy at the coffee shop says, hey, you guys are leaving today, right? And we said, yeah. And he says, you better get out now while you can. There's a big storm coming. So we went back. We packed up all our stuff. We left as a caravan. There were 7 or 8 cars, right? Went out. Snow was coming down like crazy. If we would have waited 15 minutes, we wouldn't have been able to get out. They were snowed in for 2 days behind us.
There'd been a Donner Party behind you.
Yeah, no, we're not going to eat each other. No, not that. But that's the kind of stuff.
Right? Yeah. But then that's camaraderie. Everybody's like, there's a story.
We had a trip in outside of Page, Arizona, out in the Slick Rock country. One of my favorite places to photograph. It's called White Pockets. We were there for 2 days. It rained 5 inches on us. But we got the most amazing pictures because between the storms and the rain, the light came out. You had waterfalls. You had rainbows.
Right.
But other than that, we were huddled in a tent trying to keep from getting blown away. But it was the most amazing trip. And everybody on that trip, best friends.
Yeah.
Forever.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can't pay for those kind of images. You have to sometimes go through bad weather, fog, rain, snow, to get those images. Because you sit there and you go, well, how does that snow get on that rock? Well, it has to come down quick. And you're going to have to deal with it. And then it looks beautiful in the mountain range.
Yeah, so Ansel Adams said the worst weather always makes the best pictures.
It does.
And so you got to be there.
You got to grind through it.
Absolutely. And you can't wait. Oh, it's snowing in Yosemite. I'm going to go tomorrow. It's too late.
Too late. By the time you get there, what's melted off
Yep.
doesn't have the same appeal.
Yep. Yep, it is. Yeah, so we're so lucky that way. I've been very fortunate. I've led a blessed life. Leading the groups, working in the camera store every day has just been amazing. I mean, It's just a great life. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Going through into the 90s, what was the changes in the store? You've got to be hearing at some point the rumbles of digital, gears changing. Everything's now autofocus. Everything is happening in a much more quicker in the 90s.
Yeah, so it was just a quickening in the technology, right? So you went from the Canon AE1 to the T90 to the EOS 650, right? You went from Nikon from the FE, right, to the N2020, right? And you remember how horrible those original autofocus cameras were? I mean, you press the button, and maybe it gets in focus, right? But that's what everybody wanted. And we were quick to adopt to that. We brought in autofocus early. We knew, we talked about my dad in the inventory, right? Well, we have all these old manual focus lenses. Well, Dad, we need the autofocus lenses because that's what everybody's going to want. They're going to want the new lenses.
Right? It has to work on their N90S, Dad.
Right, exactly. Well, that was 3 generations down the road, man. But we've always been quick to adopt to that. Digital was kind of hard for us to adopt first.
Sure.
Because it wasn't available to us. Because remember, the first digital cameras were the Kodak DCS, right? Not available to us in the camera store. It was Hewlett-Packard and Sharp and people like that selling the first digital cameras that were available at the computer stores. You would go to CompuTime or whoever to buy those, right? And for a 0.6 megapixel camera, right? And when it all changed was the Nikon D1.
Yeah.
That was the camera that rocked for us. So we got Nikon D1, we got the Nikon Coolpix 900. You remember the one that shape shifted? Yep. That one. The Canon, and I believe it was oh my God. There was Canon, it looked like a brick. It was like a square.
Yes.
And the lens kind of popped out.
Yeah.
And then there was the Sony one that took a CD, right? All those were cameras that we could now begin to sell. And that was great for us because digital photography was coming to the camera business, right?
Was that terrifying, though? Because then you can kind of smell film slowly dying. Because if digital's coming, film's got to be going. It's got to...
It didn't bother me because it was just one more thing. It was hard because we were seeing, right? So in a gas station, you sell gas, right? Camera store, we sold film and developing, right? So the film sales were going down. The developing was hanging in there because people were still making enlargements and now people needed to print these digital pictures, right? But it meant new technology and figuring out a new way to do this. And that was hard because we had to figure it out. There wasn't a lot of help. Yeah. And so a lot of the camera stores, digital printing places, it was the Wild West. Everybody was kind of doing their own thing. Yeah. So, yeah.
Were the camera store companies, I guess it would be Canon and Nikon at the time, they were the big giants.
And Minolta.
Olympus, Minolta. Yeah. Were they pretty helpful back then trying to usher in the new digital?
Yeah, educating us, absolutely, because
that you would need to go to your boot camp and try to figure this out because it was a science.
So here's this. So at the beginning, remember, nobody knew how to do anything. So
we had no idea.
Right. So remember, the D1 Nikon came with its own software.
Yes.
Because there was no software in a computer, right, that would read a picture. That would read a raw file. So Nikon had to have their own software. And then after a little bit came the first version of Photoshop, right? If you go back and look at what that was like, it was just...
You only had 4 tools.
Right. And that was the only way to really look at pictures. It took, Windows and Mac a while to be able to even let you look at pictures easily in your computer.
Right.
Right. So remember the PCMCIA card where you used to pull it out and shove it all the way into the motherboard to be able to get your pictures in and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
It was interesting because it was such an early adopter with digital that your computer had to be up to date.
Oh, yeah.
Your camera's this monster, cards. Nobody really told you, okay, you're going to need to store this.
Oh, what do you store it on?
Yeah.
Tape.
Yeah.
It was jazz drives and zip
drives
drives and all that kind of
you're,
stuff.
You're storing it on this weird stuff. You're trying to, someone says maybe burn CDs. Like it was such a hodgepodge, those 5 years of like trying to figure it out.
So do you remember your first memory card, Matt? I remember mine.
Yes.
I bought with my Nikon D1, I bought a half a megabyte, 500 kilobytes or
500 and something kilobytes.
A half of whatever, $375
Jesus.
for a half, right?
Yeah.
And now in my Z9, I've got 325 gigabytes, right? A third of a terabyte on one memory card.
I remember Bob Bender showing up to a Chargers game with a 250 megabyte card, and we thought he was Hugh Hefner.
Well, no, and that was one of the little hard drives.
Yeah, the little teeny CF cards. But we thought, like, my God, man, who are you? That's incredible.
That's incredible. But don't drop that.
Yeah.
Don't drop the memory card because it'll break.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It was wild.
It was wild. So did you see on DP Review, they had a story Super Bowl this year on the first version of Photo Mechanic. You got to go back and look at that.
I saw that. Yeah.
And how they rushed it to make it work for that first Super Bowl, first digital Super Bowl.
Yeah, it was, we're spoiled today what we can do.
Absolutely.
Even with just our phone. But the way the advancement with mirrorless, we look back and how those guys even captured like September 11th.
Oh my God, yes.
Holy crap.
Well, that was 2001.
Yeah.
So half the people who shot 9/11 were film and half were digital.
Right.
Yeah.
And so many of those digital files now are just
horrible,
unbearable to look at. Just brutal.
Yeah.
The jumping photo, man, and the planes and stuff. And you look at them and they're like, no, that's only a 1.5 meg file.
Right. But that's what it took to be in the newspaper.
That's what we had, right?
You had to do
and that was a $20,000 camera.
Absolutely. Yep.
You and I right now, God would never want to do this, but if we had our iPhones, could shoot better imagery, video and stills than what those guys were shooting that day.
Oh, absolutely. So I was talking to a customer today, right? So everybody knows I'm Nikon. I mean, I love the Canon and Sony stuff too, but I shoot a Z8 and a Z9.
Right.
And he said, so Mark, would you go back 5 years? What would it take for you to go back 5 years and shoot with a, that would have been a D5 and a D810.
Right.
No way. No way would I go back to SLR today after the mirrorless technology.
Sure.
With the lighter weight camera, the lighter weight lenses, the better picture quality, the better focus, eye tracking technology, electronic viewfinder with live view exposure. Could you imagine going back and following around?
That would tell you in 1995 to take an FM2.
Right, exactly. With no auto exposure.
None.
I would actually kind of rather do that and have it all manual and just set the f-stop by dead reckoning, right?
Yeah. But to go back now, it would be so extremely painful.
Hold on, Matt. You sound like your dad.
I know. Get off my lawn. It's amazing the advancement.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And, your father's probably shaking his head going, no way in hell that's what the camera is today.
No, exactly. And the cost.
Yeah.
We
like,
shared
what
this.
was your dad's inventory probably in 1970?
I have no idea. But, but I shared with you. So back in the day, we had a Leica and a Hasselblad in stock that were over $1,000. And a Leica was probably $12.99 or $14.99, and a Hasselblad was probably $14.99. But a Nikon F2 or F3 was $500 or $600.
Yeah,
and that was an expensive camera.
Oh yeah.
So and nowadays we don't have, barely any cameras in the store that are less than $1,000. And our most popular cameras are $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. lenses. I mean, we're carrying back in the day, he would carry Vivitar 70 to 200 that was $349 because that's what people would buy. They wouldn't buy the Nikon 80 to 200 because it was $699. That was too much money.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
I remember when Nikon N8008 came out. You remember that?
Yes.
So that camera was $1,000, $999, and they had the 80 to 200 2.8 for $999, and the 35 to 70 2.8 for $699.
Yes.
So we were selling $2,500 outfits. My dad was like, "There's no way. People are never.
No
gonna
one's
buy
buying this.
No
Mark.
one's buying.
Nobody's doing it, son."
And we sold them like crazy because it was 8008. It was 8,000th of a second, 8 frames per second. 2.8 glass. You couldn't get a 2.8 zoom.
Well, he probably shook his head when they were going to zooms. He was
yeah.
like, what? Zooms are trash. Nobody
Right.
wants a zoom.
Well, and yeah, so
Give them a 50. That's all they need. And
all he needs a 50.
Yeah, a 135. And
Yeah, exactly.
I know. He saw major shifts in a way that he...
I did too.
Yeah.
So
well, yeah, when we looked at stuff, what we just said, an 80 to 200 doesn't exist anymore. Now it's 70 to 200.
Right.
35 to 75. No, it's 24
to 70.
2.8. That's pretty standard.
With rock solid picture performance.
Right, from corner to corner.
Yeah.
Tack sharp.
So in the photo business, Matt, there's been, in my opinion, 3 great nexuses. The change from large cameras to small cameras in the 1960s, right? So it was 4x5, Rolleiflex to 35, speed graphics to 35 millimeter, right? With the Leica, the Canons, the Nikons, the Minoltas coming in 35 millimeters. That was the 60s. Then digital at 2000, right? So we switched from the film cameras to the digital cameras, and now we're about 5 years in to the switch from SLR to mirrorless. And I don't think in 2 years, this Christmas for sure we'll have SLR cameras. Next Christmas, we may not have any SLR cameras to sell in the camera store.
Wow.
Because, mirrorless is such an improvement. People don't understand it. So many people, and it's the non-tech guys, right? Or people, I say men and women, non-tech, right? I like my old SLR. I like the feel of it. Well, you haven't tried a mirrorless camera, right? I don't want I want an optical viewfinder. Well, you haven't tried a new electronic viewfinder where I can focus anywhere in the screen that I want, that I can do touch focus on the backup I want. I can have live exposure. I can get the horizon line and all the information in the viewfinder that I want, and I can customize the viewfinder. You can't do that in an optical viewfinder. You have an electronic viewfinder for that. That's why I said, if I had to go back, I would, right? I wouldn't cut off my left arm instead of it, but I'm certainly not going to go back.
No, it's taking power steering out of your car.
Absolutely.
You would never do that again.
And for those of you who haven't stepped up to mirrorless yet, come in and see me. I'll show you, and the difference will rock your world. Maybe not when you pick the camera up, but after you've shot 5 rolls of film with it, right? Did you see one on my Z8?
No.
The first day I got Nikon Z8, I did my first roll of film with the Z8. I shot 36 pictures on the first day I had it, and I shared all 36 pictures as my first roll of film with the Nikon Z8.
How did it feel?
It was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun to shoot like that again, right? One shot, one kill, right?
Right.
Bam. Right? Turn the motor drive off, single shot, bam. Not boom, 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 right? Because that's how you shoot. That's how I shoot.
Yes.
You're shooting your journalism stuff, right? Give me this in a little bit of, right? And I look through on, I do bridge, you do photo mechanic. That one, boom, keep that one, throw the other ones away, right? To shoot one picture at a time. It was crazy.
There's a lot to learn when you look at people's old proof sheets.
Oh yeah, I used to love the proof sheets.
Yeah.
So I bought from Neil Leifer a couple of his prints.
Okay.
He sold me also the proof sheet that went with that roll of film.
No way. What images?
So I bought Bill Mazeroski scoring the winning run when the Pittsburgh Pirates run the World Series. and I bought Willie Mays. No, Sandy Koufax on winning the World Series for the Dodgers. The one where Maury Wills is jumping up in the background, that famous photo. Mm-hmm. I have both of those as a 16 by 20 print, and I have the proof sheet of those with, and it's not the real proof sheet; it's a copy. It's got the red circles on it and the crop marks and all that. How cool is that, right?
That's almost better than the photo.
Absolutely. Right. And
because you see his process.
Yeah. And the cropping and, here comes Mazeroski around third, right? And on the Sandy Koufax one, it's a lot of nothing, right? Because it's, a strike here and a misplay there and da-da-da-da. And then,
wham, there
Sandy
it is.
Koufax jumping up in the air, win the World Series.
Yeah. I once got to look at John Beaver's take of a game. It was on Photo Mechanic, but I was going through, and it's the whole take, and you're just like, his process was stunning.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is he seeing? Why is he oh my God.
Yeah.
You look at one person's photo, you go, oh, they're brilliant.
Yeah.
But you don't know how they got there.
No. And when I talk to my students about it, it's half technical and half creative. Mm-hmm. And which part is the technical part? I don't know. Which part's the creative part? I mean, is it creative to shoot this at 2500th of a second, or is it creative to shoot it at a 60th of a second?
Right.
But that's also technical. Is it creative to, anticipate 3rd down and 7, I'm going to focus on the 25-yard line and hope that the wide receiver is going to dive for the ball right there, right? You don't know.
Yeah.
You just don't know.
And that's what makes, photography just so wonderful.
Yeah.
That you can be super technical, and I could take you out and we could just shoot some aspens changing.
Yeah.
And you're like, this is wonderful. At 2 seconds, I've got this now yellow wall waving.
Yep. That's what I love about being out with the group, right? So, I'm in Mammoth for the fall. We're going in a couple weeks up to Mammoth to do the fall color. It's going to be awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah, actually, I don't get to go. Mark Crace is leading that group.
Mark's got it.
Yeah, he's got it. But so we'll have 4 beginners and 4 intermediates and 4 advanced students on the trip. And they'll do an image review and look at their proof sheets halfway through. And, oh my God, this beginner who has no experience has got this freaking awesome shot because they brought no experience and no preconceived notion to the image.
Well, here's something that's interesting now. I saw somebody do, especially in, I don't know if you guys are technically with all your students can do this right now, but with mirrorless, they were, instead of like, oh, bring your laptop, they would do that assignment. Let's go, we're going to go out and shoot this. Mm-hmm. And in the night, the instructor goes by and just off their camera, just downloads it to his iPad.
Yeah.
Your photo. And then he sat there and they all sat around, they're drinking beers at the campsite and they're like going through the iPad looking at it.
Yeah.
You couldn't have done that 20 years ago. No. And now everybody's like, oh my God, now I'm going to try that tomorrow. Yep. Oh my God, I hadn't thought of that.
Yep, you can do that.
And you take the learning curve goes so much faster.
Yeah. Some of my friends who are teaching today, and this is mainly for portrait and wedding stuff, they put a large monitor on the top of their camera. As they're shooting, you can see the pictures as they're shooting right on the camera.
Wow.
Yeah. How cool is that?
That's bonkers.
I mean, that doesn't work out in landscape because everybody's spread around.
Sure.
But if we're doing something like, to have that extra monitor really helps today. And we do that in some of the portrait and wedding classes we do.
That's cool. At what point did you have that conversation with your dad that you would quite possibly take over the business, and one part of like running it with him to like, okay, I want to keep it Paul's camera. I don't want to just turn it into like Al's bowling alley.
So I told him the day that I decided that I'm going to do the photo when I was in college.
Yeah.
I told him that day, Dad, today I decided that, are you okay with that? Yeah, I'd love to have you. Da, da, da. We never really had that conversation that you asked about But we had many conversations about the direction. Where are we going? So here's a junction. What do we do? I mean, the first one I remember that we had was there was a lot of pressure on us at the time to build a second location, right? Because here we are in Torrance, kind of down in the bottom corner of LA County, right?
Right.
And if you look from a business sense point of view, it's a bad location because 2 miles to the west is the ocean. And on a retail store, you draw a 10-mile circle. Well, a third of our circle is water,
Right.
on our 10-mile circle. But we're in a really nice part of town that has really great people, very artistic community, affluent community, safe part of town, so that part's good. But there was a lot of pressure for us to put a second location. And we thought long and hard about it, and we decided no, because at that point we were starting to grow the inventory. So we were doing the Nikon 8008. We would have the 80 to 200 2.8. We would have the 70 to 300. We would have a 300 2.8 in stock.
Right.
And we knew that if we had a second location, that location, you're not going to be able to have 2 of these.
Right.
You're only going to be able to have 1.
Right.
And a lot of his friends in the camera business had second locations that were, half-baked.
Satellite
Satellite location, right? You had a few things there. And it didn't. So we decided, no, there's going to be one Pulse photo. We're going to make it the biggest, baddest we could. And it was great because both of us were here, right? You could always find one of the bosses in the store.
In the location.
In
right.
the store,
Yeah.
right? And it wasn't, right? So we decided that. I remember the day we decided to bring our film developing in-house.
Oh.
So for a long time, we didn't do that. We sent it out, and it was a big decision. So we partnered with another lab, brought them in with us, eventually bought them out. But that was a big decision for us to change the business. To bring this space here where we're in the classroom to double the size of the business. Now, my dad was already out of the business. This was my wife and I who decided to do this. But that's a big financial jump, right?
Yeah.
Twice the rent, right? For a classroom, for offices. Well, what that did is it gave us more room next door, right? For the camera store, but also gave us all the power of what we're doing over here.
Total control.
Well, and having classes anytime we want. To have workshops, to bring more creativity, to bring guest speakers. Like when we had you come in, right? We had 75 people here to hear you speak, right? In our location. How cool was that?
No,
right?
that's great. That is such an unbelievable thing to have,
Yeah. And so now, you didn't look, but the processing lab, we used to have a gallery up front here on the classroom side.
Right.
Now the processing lab is there because the processing lab grew beyond the footprint where we had them before. So now they're up here, they've doubled their space because we're developing more film, we're making more prints, we're scanning more slides, we're making more video transfers, we're doing twice as much of that, so we needed twice as much room.
Yeah, that scanning and transferring's got to be huge.
It's huge, but not as much as film developing today.
Yeah.
So we're doing hundreds of rolls of film a day for people, both color and black and white, C41 and traditional black and white, we do in-house. Wow, and it's awesome.
There's still that much film being developed.
Every day. So there was a time about a year ago when we couldn't get enough film. There just wasn't enough film in the market to buy.
People ran around during COVID just taking pictures?
It was slightly as we were coming out of COVID. So I think what the film manufacturers did is they slowed down.
Sure.
Right? And film, it's not like toilet paper where you can just turn up, right? Film takes 6 months to make.
Oh, yeah.
So by the time you cure it and, right? So the demand came back for film after COVID. There wasn't enough film to buy. We were buying film from wherever we were getting film from Eastern Europe, from China, from wherever we could.
Anybody.
Anybody who made film, we were buying it because there were some weeks where we had no color film in the store. We were out of all color film.
Would you ever have imagined that?
No, never. Well, but the other thing is, all right, so let's go back, right? Go back to my dad's era, right? Back to the 70s and 80s. We were buying a truckload of Kodak every week between film and paper and developing chemistry, slide projectors, slide trays, all that stuff would come from Kodak. And it was a truck would come, we would order on Monday and it would come on Thursday, once a week.
Jesus.
Yeah, a truckload a week. Right now, but that's why Kodak is out of business, because we have thousands of rolls of film on order with Kodak, and we get 50 rolls a month, 100 rolls a month. And so we have to order film from all these different suppliers to be able to get enough film. And sometimes it's months. You know, Kodak Portra 400 is a film that everybody wants, right? And we have, thousands of rolls on order. We'll get 100 rolls in on a Tuesday, and by a week from Tuesday, it's all gone.
Jesus.
Yeah. But that's 100 rolls. Where back in the day, we would have ordered
thousands,
300 rolls of Portra 400, and 300 rolls of Portra 160, and 300 rolls of Ektachrome 100, and 500 rolls of Kodachrome 64, and 200 rolls of Gold 400, and 1,000 rolls of Tri-X, and
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how it was.
How much of your arm would you have lost if you ever thought Kodak would have gone out of business?
I understand what they did business-wise. They tried to deny the future and protect their existing market instead of embracing the future. You know, Kodak was the leader in technology and digital for years.
Yeah.
And all they had to do was embrace digital. They had the best digital chips and imaging sensors in the world.
Yeah, I had their VP on, and he's like, we had it all.
We had it all.
The CEO just said, no, absolutely not.
Right, because if we make these digital chips, it's going to kill the film business.
Yeah.
But, we could have been selling Nikon cameras with Kodak chips, Kodak sensors in it.
Or quite possibly Kodak cameras.
Or Kodak cameras, exactly right. Yep, all made in Rochester, New York.
All done,
yep.
in-house.
Yep, exactly.
I'm waiting for that documentary, that Netflix 6-part documentary on how they just shot their foot off twice.
Yeah, I know, exactly. It's sad. And, the sad thing for me, corporate-wise, business-wise, those business guys made $1 million a year to run this into the ground. And, you look at Kodak Park today, right? It was miles and miles of business and manufacturing where now they're dynamiting buildings because they just can't keep them up. They're just blowing them up and leveling them.
They're just relics.
Yeah. Yep.
It's bonkers to think that they literally had the whole photo industry.
They had the world in their hand.
And
they let it run through like sand.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you go, guys, you know how hard that is to do?
No. Yeah.
But you did it.
And you screwed the pooch.
And you did it well.
Yeah. Yeah.
My God.
Yeah, exactly.
And even you had Fuji and Agfa, you had all these other companies that were still working around being fringe players. They're all like nothing of what they were.
Absolutely. Well, Fuji's actually done pretty well because they've gone into medical. And most of the ink that you buy for inkjet printers is all made by Fuji.
Of course.
Yeah. And so, the Epson, the Canon, I hear that Fuji is the one who actually
makes the ink.
Right.
Yeah. It just goes into somebody else's cartridge.
Yep.
How was the embracing for you guys when COVID starts coming around and things are shutting down?
Scariest freaking. So,
as a business, you must have been terrified.
I remember March 17th, 2020. So, I was in Africa in February.
Okay.
Climbed Kilimanjaro, 1st of February, was on a photo safari, like from the 10th to the 20th of February. Kind of out of touch, but hearing that the shit's hitting the fan around the world, right? So we kind of get back to civilization and are wondering, can we get home? Are we going to be able, are they going to let us into the United States? So we get home about the 20th, 22nd of February, 2020, right? Then the COVID thing starts. And I remember, Matt, probably one of the saddest days of my life, March 17th, 2020, the day we fired all of our employees here at Pulse Photo. Because the governor told us, you have to close down. And I talked to my wife, I talked to our accountant, and we decided that we wanted to take care of our employees as best we could. So we paid everybody their vacation time and their sick time, gave them their final paycheck, and said, go get unemployment. And I didn't want to wait. I didn't want to delay because we didn't know, is the government only going to take the first 100 guys who show up and then nobody else gets money, right? I wanted my guys to be first in line. So we fired everybody. And it was Cheryl and I, my wife and I, Jeff, the lab manager, and Boyd, who was our general manager at the time. We all stayed. And we kept the business running. Jeff would develop film. I mean, we had to be closed, right? So we were closed. We put the drop box on the front porch. That was the first project that I did for COVID. We put the drop box. People would still leave their film. We would mail the film back to them. I answered the phone every day. Boyd and I took turns here in the camera store, answering the phone, doing the internet, doing internet sales, shipping stuff out. And we were closed for March. Remember, they closed March 17th and said 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
We'll be back Easter,
Flatten
right?
the curve.
Right? Yeah. So here comes Easter. Nope. Not end of April. Nope. So about the middle of May, things were starting to loosen up. And I declared ourselves an essential business because we were taking care of the fire department, the police department,
Right.
journalists, the hospital. So I would say, so we're going to be an essential business. End of May, we brought back a couple of the employees. We opened the doors, but wouldn't let people in the store. You had to stand out front with your mask on. And we did business that way. But what we did during COVID that was amazing for our business was I talked to our vendors, Canon, Nikon, Sony, mostly, and we started doing online classes. Up until March of 2020, all of the classes were live here in the classroom.
Sure.
Because, number one, the technology didn't really exist, and people didn't accept going to an online class.
Right.
So starting with
It
COVID.
was lesser.
Yeah, so why would you do that, right?
Yeah. Let's go hang out with Mark. I don't want to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we want to hang out. So we couldn't hang out. So starting in March, we started with online classes. And the Canon rep, the Nikon rep, the Sony rep would come on and we would do a free class. And then Nikon brought in the Nikon ambassadors. And, and I had Joe McNally and Deanne Fitzmaurice and Amy Vitale and all of the and Vincent Versace, and I can't even remember who else.
Right.
Were giving classes for us online. And suddenly we had...
Which you would have killed to have them in person.
Absolutely. But to have them in person cost $5,000 to bring Deanne from up north or Joe from New York and bring them in here.
And you only have 75 spots.
Right. So we had 500 people online take a photo class from Joe McNally. And it was a Pulse photo class. And those people are still students and customers today. So one of the things that COVID has brought us is, number one, improved the technology and made a Zoom class acceptable technology. I mean, you saw me give a Zoom class today. I mean, we'd give a great Zoom class. And I really built the online platform so it works just like coming to the classroom. That's why we didn't do it beforehand, because there was online classes, but it was recorded. You couldn't do it live. There was no interaction.
It was clunky.
It was clunky. So we were really happy with the increases in Zoom and stuff like being able to use, I'm using a Nikon Z6 as my streaming camera.
Right.
So I'm using a high quality camera, high quality lens, a Rode mic, a light, all that stuff. That's what we're using today.
If there was a silver lining from COVID, that's definitely
it. Oh my God.
That's it.
Yeah. And so
has it increased your class size?
Absolutely. So it's increased the class reach.
Okay.
So
the reach for sure, right?
50% of our students are not Southern California.
What?
50%. So
that's great.
On my trip to Africa, 50% of the people who came to Africa are not Southern California people.
Wow. I mean, if you said not South Bay, I would have been shocked, but Southern California. Wow.
Right. Yeah. But so what has happened is, so when you gave your talk here, right? Mm-hmm. People drove from, you drove from Orange County, right, and people drove from Pasadena to come to this talk, right? That's a superhuman effort.
Yes.
On a Tuesday night in Los Angeles, mm-hmm, right? So now I have Matt, I have you do a class for me, and it's on Zoom, and we have 200 people, and people from Manhattan Beach are going to go Zoom because they don't want to drive 30 minutes here.
Sure.
Right? And it's made life, it's certainly increased the class business, but the other thing it's done is it's allowed me to get Joe McNally, Amy Vitale. So 3 of my regular class instructors don't live here in California anymore. Justin lives in Iowa, and Mike lives in Texas, and how come it just went? But anyhow,
right.
Those guys are teaching classes for us. They're regular class instructors, but they don't live in Southern California.
Yeah, and I could be some guy, just regular schmuck in Philadelphia that watches and comes in and jumps in on the meeting.
And then, where are you going to go to buy your camera?
Yeah, I'm going to call you up.
You're going to call us up, or you're going to go online. And we're finding now that about 25% of our camera business is online. So, either from regular online traffic at pulsephoto.com,
right,
or the students who want an in-store experience even though they live where there is no camera store.
Right.
Because there's great swaths of the country where there is no camera store anymore.
Yeah.
Right? So there's no camera store in Fullerton.
Nope.
There's no camera store in Mission Viejo.
There's not one in La Habra. There's not one.
Exactly. Yeah. So you've got to drive 40 minutes to a camera store.
Right.
And once again, a superhuman effort.
And I just might want to talk to somebody about a lens.
So you just call us up.
Yeah.
And you have, it's as close as we can get to being in the store, but you're online.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's awesome. So that's the silver lining for COVID for us. So end of May, we reopened, slowly brought stuff back. Took 2 years to get classroom back in store, live in the classroom. But we still find that, so 2/3 of our classes are still online because we want to service the people that don't live in the area. Mm-hmm. And realistically, I'm starting photo boot camp on Wednesday.
Okay.
It's online. So a lot of people are complaining they want that live again, but I find I have 50% better attendance, 40% better homework participation, and about 30% better learning online because you're doing it from home. You don't have to get in the car at 6 o'clock and drive here to come to class. You don't have to do this. You don't have to do that. You sit at home. And you don't have to sit here with 20 other people. You sit in front of your own computer with your headphones on.
Right.
You listen better. You see it better. And so everything about it, except for the social interaction, is better.
Did you become a better instructor because of it?
I had to redo everything.
Okay.
I had to rebuild everything because online, in store, I could have props.
Right.
Online, I can't have props. I had to rebuild all the classes, and all of my instructors, we went through that first month. All right, guys, show me your class and show me what you did in store. Okay, we need to build that so it's online. And whether we do a little video or a demonstration or whatever, all of that got translated into online.
Yeah, because it's a weird process in person. You have a routine. You can read the room.
You can read the room, and you can't read the room online.
No. You can have I can have my screen off, and I'm on my pajamas, and I'm just listening to you.
And you're talking to a green dot.
Yeah, right.
You're not talking to people.
Yeah.
You're talking to a green dot, and you have to remember that those are people out there.
Yeah.
And that's why. So one of the reasons why we resisted the online classes so much, because I hated online classes because they were either talking head or they were really slick with super high production value.
Right.
And I thought it was disingenuous.
Yeah.
So
I don't need to look at your PowerPoint. Yeah.
I mean, but you don't want flames and sound effects and all that kind of crap, right? So we really have an organic approach to it. So it's realistically the instructor. All of my instructors have cameras, all have lights, all have microphones.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great little setup.
Yeah, it's a great way, and it makes a great production for people.
And the reach.
Yeah,
the ability
reach
to
is
reach.
awesome.
You can literally, if you can have a kid in Indonesia that wants to be in your class, he can.
They can. I had tonight, at the class you walked in on tonight, right? I have a woman in Texas. I have a woman in Pennsylvania, a woman in upstate New York, a guy in Oregon, a guy in Montana, and a guy in Texas.
Wow.
In that class that you walked in, half the group was not here.
Jesus.
Yeah,
I mean, Pennsylvania, she's 3 hours behind.
absolutely. So that's why we start at 6.
Right,
I mean,
that's a commitment for her.
Yeah, exactly. So we moved everything up. We had to adjust the times, right?
Right.
Knowing that the people are now online.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we did that.
Because normally, what would your class be, 7?
7.
Yeah.
So if you're going to do a live class, you can't do 6 because people can't get here.
Right. Which is not going to happen. Not in this traffic, not this day and age.
Well, and if you're get off of work, go home, kiss the wife, do whatever, come back, or put dinner on the table for the kids and rush out, right? That's got to be 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your favorite trip? If you had to take somebody on a trip, let's go take pictures. Where would it go? What would it be?
The next one.
The next one?
The next one, wherever I'm going next. That's my favorite trip.
What do you have planned for next?
So next week I'm going to England with my kids. So family vacation.
Wow, that's...
Yeah. So family vacation, right?
All
so
right.
my kids are old. They're all adults. So picking a place to go. So I'm taking my Z8 with me, and we're going to have some fun in England. So then the end of October, I'm taking the group. We're going to Thailand and Cambodia.
Whoa.
1st of October, Bill Balser is taking the group to Eastern Sierra. Mark Crace is taking the group in November to Yosemite for fall color. I'm taking the group in January to Yosemite for snow in Yosemite.
Yes.
I'm taking the group in the end of January to Death Valley. Every year since 1992, we go to Death Valley in January or February.
I hope it's ready by then.
It'll be okay. They'll be fine.
Did you see the photos from
Yeah,
Death Valley?
I talked to the ranger there yesterday, and
Isn't it shocking what a couple inches of rain can do to that place?
but in a place that gets 1/10 of an inch of rain a year,
Yeah.
2 inches of rain is a ton.
Yeah.
Right. So February, I'm gonna climb Kilimanjaro again, and we're taking a group to Tanzania. In January, Mark Crace has taken a group to Yellowstone to do Yellowstone in the winter. I mean, we have all kinds of fun.
That's
awesome.
great.
Yeah.
Now, do you have the person that goes to Thailand? Is that the same person that might go to Yosemite that goes to Death Valley?
So remember, the groups are a third, a third, a third. A third of the group are my veterans, the advanced students who've been with me many times.
Okay.
A third of the group are people who've been with me once or twice, and when I say me, with Creative Photo Academy.
The department, yeah.
And a third are newbies, rookies, who've never been before. And the trips break down to within 5% of that every single time. A third, a third, a third.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you're on those trips as a student, like, can you see from day one to the last day their growth?
I hope so.
For you, though, like, do you see it and go, wow, that makes me feel good?
It always makes, when I see them get a good picture, when I see them working hard, and you know how when you go to dinner with friends, Matt, you're sitting there, you're having drinks, you're having appetizers, and it's loud and boisterous. And when a good meal comes, what happens?
Silence. Yeah.
Silence.
Everybody looks at the plate.
And you know that, it's the same way, right? So the first of the trip, it's all chattery, right? And by the end of the trip, it's silent because everybody is working. Everybody has found their groove. They've got their jam. You know, I made one of my students cry on one of the trips. And she's been a longtime student of mine. And we were in Cuba, and she found this little picture, this little vignette. And I walked by and I said, Julie, that is absolutely amazing. I love that you're making that picture. And she said that, Mark, that's the best thing anybody has ever said to me. And her picture won a prize at the Orange County Fair this year. That picture she took. Yeah, because it was just this amazing moment she captured. And she's the only one who got the picture. Wow. It's amazing. Yeah. And I love that.
And that, like, you know, I've taught and I've done instruction. Those are those moments that warm your heart for a very, very long time because not that we're jaded and we've seen a lot, but a lot of that stuff comes so easy to me.
Yeah.
And to other photographers that we don't even think about it. And when they are really wanting to be in your world and they do touch that space for a moment, for them, it's absolute, like, I'm a Pro Bowl player.
Yeah. So
this was wonderful.
So there are 2 days that I always look forward to every year. And so we've taken a big liking to the Orange County Fair photo contest here at Creative Photo Academy.
Good.
And we rock. We kill it there. So the 2 days I love, Matt, are the day of acceptance because, you know, it's so nerve-wracking because the month before they put out, here's the rules, this is what you submit. So, and all of my students, we do an event where people submit their pictures and we review their pictures and say which ones they should submit and which one you don't. So you submit your pictures the end of May, and then the middle of June is acceptance day. And you get emails, each of your pictures that you submit, you get an email back. And it's either accepted or sorry, we'll see you next year, right? And so you can submit 10. Most of my students submit 10, right? All the good ones submit 10, right? That day, it's never email, it's always on the phone. Mark, I got 6. Mark, I got 5. Mark, I got 4. Mark, I got 4, right? And it's so great. It's awesome, right? And why is it great? Because my kids, right? And they're my kids, right? They're succeeding. And what do you want for your kids? What do you want for your students? You want them to get it, right? You want them to love it and to see that. And the second day is the opening day of the fair because you don't know who gets ribbons until the opening day. They don't announce it.
You got to go and put eyes on it.
You got to put your eyes on the fair.
Oh, man. I thought they sent you a notification.
No,
so
there's
you're
nothing.
walking in blind.
You walk in blind, and I get the calls.
Your heart could just stop or...
Right, yeah. So I'm getting calls because I can never go. I didn't even get to go to the fair this year because it opens on a Friday. I was busy that weekend, and then that following Monday, I left for Africa for a month. And I was still in Africa when the fair closed. I never got to go and see everybody's work. But that Friday, once again, a dozen phone calls. Mark, Bob got a blue ribbon, and Chuck got a red ribbon, and Amy got a honorable mention. And this is the second time this has happened in the years that we've been entering the Orange County Fair. Twice now, my students have won the whole enchilada. Best of fair. Mary Jane won this year. So she has a nickname. We have nicknames at Creative Photo Academy. Her nickname is now Enchilada because she won the whole effing enchilada this year, right? Same thing happened about 5 years ago. John won the whole thing.
What was her photo this year?
Her photo was from Cuba. It was a little boy and his uncle, and it was just this awesome, cute little picture.
Just a little moment of the two of them?
Just a moment, the two of them. Yeah, the uncle owns a tobacco farm.
Okay.
And we went and we had lunch at the tobacco farm. We toured the tobacco farm, and we were in the tobacco drying room.
Wow.
And it's this big barn where the tobacco leaves are in it, and the uncle was showing us how to make a cigar. And he was just making a cigar, and his nephew was sitting there on his lap, kind of cutting up, being a kid. And it was just this awesome moment, and she captured it. And more importantly, she entered it. So you can't win if you don't enter.
Right, yeah.
So it was awesome.
So that's the enchilada.
And that brings, and like you said, that brings tears to my eyes.
Right.
When I'm getting all these calls from my students, I won, Betty won, Jane won, right? It's so cool. It's so awesome.
What was the push to finally get into the fair? Why did you guys wait so long?
Well, we didn't. We've been doing it for about 10 years.
Oh, okay.
And it just, you got to learn how to do it, right? So the first year we had a little bit of success. Second year, a little bit more. We're winning now about a quarter of the ribbons and getting about a quarter of the entries from my students. Now, I'll never admit to that. Yeah, but we're kicking ass.
That's great.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you want.
Yeah.
They're learning a beautiful craft. They're getting better.
Yep.
They're getting jazzed about either entering or winning a ribbon.
That's
love of God. It's just a blue ribbon, but to them, it's the world.
Well, but to everybody, it's the world because, that's become one of the largest photo contests in the world, believe it or not.
Really?
And 1 million people get to see your pictures.
Yeah, right. I mean, there's a lot of people that go through there.
A lot of people go through there. I mean, now it's not great prize money. You win $250, $300. That's not why you do it, right? But
does the LA Fair still have one?
Yeah, but their photo competition sucks.
Really?
It's really small. It's Orange County blows it away as far as pictures goes.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's an awesome, and the quality of the work at Orange County is amazing. If you get accepted there, that's a win. Just getting accepted is a win because they only accept about 1 in 10 or 1 in 15 photos. So you're already a winner if you have photos accepted.
Wow.
Yeah.
Who's the judges?
They never say. Well, they do afterwards, and they just have their pictures on the wall. So if you would have gone down there, here's the picture of Bob and Sally and Jim, and it says a little bit about them. But they used to say ahead of time.
Are they typically professional editors or people?
No,
or
they're
just
photographers, artists, writers.
Okay, so
whatever.
they're not just yokels around Costa Mesa.
No.
Okay. Thank God.
Yeah.
Carol owns a flower shop and she gets to judge the contest.
Right, exactly.
How does Carol know?
Right, exactly. So, yeah.
Walk me through Africa, that last trip. When I saw the stuff that you were doing there, it looked like you were having the time of your life.
We always do. So all the trips, Matt, are amazing. I mean, some trips are more amazing than others.
Right.
I mean, Africa, I've been doing Africa every year since 2005. It's an amazing experience. So I get to go to Africa 3 times next year.
3 times?
So in February, we're going to Tanzania. That trip still has room if somebody wants to sign up.
Where would they find it?
CreativePhotoAcademy.com.
Okay.
Or call us here at Paul's Photo. We can walk you through it. You're going to talk to my buddy Maurice, who runs our Africa safaris for us, and he'll take your money, sign you up. It's an amazing trip to Tanzania in February. So 3 days with the tribes. The reason we go to Tanzania is you can really go and meet the tribes that live the old way. You get to spend a day with the Maasai in a real Maasai village. I know every safari goes to a Maasai village, but that's not a real Maasai village. The people don't really live there. You get to go and you'll meet my buddy Oladolap, who has 8 wives, and you'll see his 8 wives on their compound. You can milk a cow if you want. You can see the way they live, talk to the people. You spend half a day with him. We spend half a day with the Datoga, which are sheep and goat society in Tanzania. They live in the dry lands. It's a really hard scrabble life. They do a little farming. They do a little bit of corn farming, the Datoga people. We'll get to meet them. We've gone to see the same family for the past 10 years. It's an awesome family, and sit down in their boma, in their hut, and learn what it's like. And we really got to make friends with them, so that last time they were asking us what our life was like. So how big is your farm, Matt, in the United States? How many cows do you have, right? They looked at my wife. My wife was with me, and they said, "Oh, this is your wife?" "Yes." "So which wife are you?" Right? Because they're all polygamous. They all have more than one wife. And she said, I'm the best wife, right? It was what? And they asked, "So what do you do?" And he said, so Cheryl said, we own a store, and that she does the books, she does the money. And they were all, they loved to talk about that. And we talk about their life, right? Because they're farmers, they're subsistence farmers. They grow corn, they grow goats, they grow sheep. And that's what they do. And we see what it's like to do that. And then we go the next morning at dawn to the Huzabees. And the Huzabees are the last hunter-gatherers on the planet. No agriculture. They live in a grass shack, and they hunt and they gather fruits and vegetables for what they eat today. They don't save anything. They don't grow anything. So if they don't hunt today, they don't eat today.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's amazing to go see them and hang out with them. Yeah. And make pictures, of course.
Right. So walk me through, what would you say you need? And because, it used to be 20 years ago, you bring your film. Now it's how many cars, your laptop, your lenses.
Yeah.
What are you telling students?
So it's up to the student as to what pictures they want to take. Some people bring an iPhone.
Okay.
Some people bring a point and shoot camera with a big zoom lens on it. Mm-hmm. Some people bring a digital SLR with an 18 to 400 lens on it. It depends on what you're comfortable with.
Right. Yeah. Don't want you to drag along 800 if you've never used it.
Right. Well, and some people don't want to spend $10,000 on cameras. Some people can't lift a 25-pound camera bag.
Right.
Right. Now, I'll tell you about Evelyn. Evelyn is one of my top students. She's a prize-winning photographer, published photographer. Evelyn is 80-plus years old. She weighs 90-plus pounds dripping wet. Evelyn rocks in Africa a Z9 with a 400-millimeter 4.5, a 70 to 200 2.8, and a 24 to 70, and a 2X extender. That's what she rocks in Africa. And she makes frickin' awesome pictures with it. So that's pretty much what I bring. So I bring three cameras. I bring a Z8 and a Z9, and I have a Z8 that's converted to infrared.
Okay.
Then a 24 to 70, 70 to 200, 400 2.8 with the built-in 1.4 converter and a 1.4 converter. That fits in my Think Tank First Light 46 bag, and that's what I take to Africa with my laptop, and away you go. I bring a memory card a day. So this trip, I brought 25 memory cards. I brought two 2 terabyte SSD drives to back everything up, and away you go.
Wow.
Really simple.
Is it from the first time you went in 2005 to today? Is the continent, the people, are they different? Do you see a change?
No, it's the same. So what's changed is the technology in Africa has changed.
Okay.
We have better vehicles. When we first started, we were using Land Cruisers.
Land Rovers?
Land Rovers. We were doing Land Rovers.
Open those 110s, probably with open top or something.
Yeah, and it just was not as comfortable. Today, we have the Toyota Land Cruiser 79s that are customized, that are very comfortable. You have cell service everywhere.
Really?
Yeah. So cell service in Africa is better than it is here. It's 5 bars on my iPhone everywhere we go. Why? Because, Matt, they never put in copper wire. Never. So back in the day, there were no phones. You had radio communication. They never invested in copper wires. They couldn't afford it. So the problem we have here in the United States is the phone company, right, has to maintain a copper wire network and a cellular network. Think about it if Verizon could just say,
copper people, you're on your own.
You're done. We're going to recycle all the copper. We're tearing all that crap out. It's done. And now we can invest all that time and money into making the cell service better. Everybody gets top 5G everywhere.
Right.
Africa, they never put in the copper wire. They just put cell service in. And so you go with your iPhone, every African tribesman, the Hazabi tribesmen, the guys who are hunter-gatherers who don't hunt, that don't do agriculture, have a cell phone. They all do.
He's on Pandora listening to Yacht Rock. And
he's watching English Premier Football. He's a Manchester United or Chelsea or Tottenham fan.
Of course, yeah.
And they're watching their Kenyan players play football in Africa and in Italy, and they're watching the Kenyan runners do what they do, and they're watching Kenyan football on their phone. And so that's changed in Africa.
Wow.
What hasn't changed in Africa? Well, and there's Wi-Fi in the camps now, right?
Okay.
So usually not very good Wi-Fi, but you saw I posted a photo and a video almost every day. And if you go to my Instagram or Facebook, Mark Comon Facebook or Instagram, you can look back into July and August and see photos and videos every day from Africa.
Right, yeah.
I was posting every day.
It was a wonderful little catalog.
Yeah, it was fun. So, but what hasn't changed, what has changed is the animals are in better shape than they've ever been.
Really?
There's less poaching. They're taking better care of the animals. Tourism is really locked in as one of the top industries in Kenya, for sure. They're protecting the animals. They're doing, there's a big controversy over there now because the parks were getting overcrowded, so they raised the fees to go into the parks. Okay? So it costs me a little bit more to go in every day, but they're taking better care of the animals. It's a little bit more money for the guys. I don't care. It makes my trip cost $500 more money.
Right.
I don't care, right? That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So, but the animal part is better than it's ever been. And I'm better with the students and I'm better with the animals than I've ever been because I have 15 years experience, 20 years experience of finding the animals, working with the guides, working with my team in Africa to get a better experience for the people. So we're staying in better lodges, we're getting closer to the animals, we're getting better pictures, we're having better opportunities than we've ever had before.
Do you look at it to the point where you're looking if there's a no moon or full moon because maybe you want things at night?
No, you can't really go out at night. It's against the rules to go out at night. And so
just
and you
too
really
dangerous?
Can't, no, it's against the law.
Oh, Jesus.
So you can't, if you're in, so this is a common fallacy about Africa. You and I are driving to Yosemite, right? Mm-hmm. So you leave from Los Angeles, you drive to Bakersfield, you drive through farmland, you go to Yosemite, and then it's pristine. Africa is exactly the same. You leave from Nairobi. You either fly or you drive from Nairobi, from the city. You drive through farmland, and you arrive at a national park. And once you're in the national park, it's pristine, and that's where the animals are. It's just like here. It's no different, right? So the animals are not just wandering around. They're in a park. They're protected, right? You can't go out at night because they shoot anybody who's out after dark. That's a poacher.
Yeah, I guess that would make sense.
So the parks are open between 6 in the morning and 6:30 in the evening. That's it. There's a little bit of leeway there, but if it's at 7:30 and you're out there, you're a bad guy.
You're fair game.
You're a bad guy.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
What's the the golden shot? What do you try to look for? Do you want your elephants? Do you want giraffes doing giraffes? Like, when you go, you're like, I got to get that off my list.
My list is all about emotion and storytelling. It's just like your list when you go out to photograph whatever, right? Mm-hmm. I don't want a picture of just a giraffe. So I categorize, when I teach my students about going to Africa, there's 3 kinds of pictures you're going to make in Africa. Beginners take catalog photos. The picture you would see in the encyclopedia that says giraffe. There's
a giraffe.
There's a picture, right?
Profile.
Right. Then there's portraits that have a little more character, but it's still just, right? When you're doing journalism, Matt, what are you capturing? What do you want? You want the magic moment. You want the gesture. You want that
that moment.
Yes,
yeah.
That's what I want. So that's one of the things that Nikon Z8 and Z9 have given me at 20 frames per second. I've never been a 20 frame per second photographer. But when these 2 giraffes are interacting, when the lion is running, when these 2 elephants are wrestling, shooting, going bang, 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 like we used to do with film or early in digital, I would always get these in-between moments. And now at 20 frames per second, I'm burning through a lot of digits, man. I've got a lot of pixels to edit, right? But I get that moment where the giraffe is looking at the other giraffe and they have that sparkle in their eye. I'm looking at the 2 elephants wrestling and they're just giving each other that look. That's that magic moment. That's what I want. So on this last trip, I always measure what we haven't seen before. And we'd had half a dozen things in 3 safaris with 3 different groups. Each group had 2 or 3 things that I have never seen before. And we had 3 things on this trip that our guides had never seen before. Believe it or not. Yeah. So you still see
for
that.
the guides. That's
for the guides,
big.
Never seen before. Yeah.
I mean, because you think they've enough hours that they're kind of like, okay,
so
seeing the giraffe fight.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll tell you about the last one. So our last 2 days in Kenya. So I'm there 28 days. I've done a lot, seen a lot. I've taken 28,000 photos already. We're out on our last evening, sunset. So we leave at 4:00, sunset's at 6. We're driving in this part that's really hard to see things because the bushes are tall, the grass is tall, the light's low already because it's overcast, right? And I see a lion. And I get the spot. We all keep track. So the drivers keep track, I keep track, the students keep track. Who gets the most spots, right? You get points, right? So I get the spot. I saw a lion. We drive around, we go up, right? And they're pretty far away. They're probably 200, 300 yards away. I see this lion. We go up, it's 8 lions, turns out. 1 subadult male, 1 subadult female, 5 high juvenile males, and 1 high juvenile female. So what do I mean by that? So an adult male lion is an adult with the mane at like 4 years old. 2.5 to 3 years old, they start to get the mane, but it's not dark. And they're not sexually active. They're getting to be a lion, but they're not a lion yet.
Right.
They're a teenager. They're a 16-year-old.
They're squirrely.
Yeah. But they're a 16-year-old,
Yeah.
right? So there's a 2.5 to 3-year-old male and a 2.5 to 3-year-old female. 5 2-year-old males, which are like 12 or 13-year-old kids, right?
Okay.
And 1 2-year-old female, like 12, 13-year-old kids, right? So this group of 8 lions. Everybody's puzzled. We don't know what's going on because this is unusual.
Yeah, it just
right. So, okay. Oh, there's a male. Wait a minute. But he's not an adult. He's not an adult. He's not the father of these. In fact, he's not even a father. He's not an adult, but he looks like an adult. He's almost there, right? Almost there. Then they start to interact. They start to hunt. And the subadult female starts the hunting, and they start hunting after these impala. And it gets dark. We have to give up because it's getting dark. We have to get back. We have to be out of the park by 6:30. And on our way back, there's an adult female way off to the side, watching. So we had 2 trucks, 2 driver guides, the local guide from that park, Oscar, our main guide, and me. We're all sitting at beer afterwards because we couldn't figure out what was going on. And we're sitting with a beer around the campfire afterwards. What did we just see? What we surmised is we saw the mom, and whether she's mom or auntie, you don't know, because lions raise all their children communally, and all of the mothers raise all of the children. So it's either mom or auntie, right? She was watching. The boys were getting ready to be thrown out of the pride. Because when you get to be an adult male, you're thrown out to go leave and make your own pride.
Off to college.
Off to college.
Where you
Go. Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
So that's what was happening. The next morning, we came out, and I had the spot again. We found Dad and one of the other moms mating. And it all made sense. So there's one of the moms.
Right.
Over here in the same area was Dad. I mean, clearly Dad, the biggest, baddest lion we saw the whole trip. I mean, beautiful male lion. I mean, he was giant. It was awesome. And one of the females mating. It was awesome. Beautiful the way to watch them do that. So here's Mom and Dad. There's another mom. And there can be up to 6 females in a lion pride, right? So just to watch that pride dynamic was, and that's one of the things, when you come to Tanzania with us and we go to Ngorongoro Crater or Lake Ndutu or the Serengeti Plains, that's the kind of stuff we're doing. We're not just ticking off that we saw a lion. I want for my students, we spend 2 hours with these lions, watching them be lions, figuring out their behavior. What are they doing, right? Why are they doing this? What is going on here? Watching them hunt, watching them stalk, watching them be lions.
Yeah, because that you can't get that experience anywhere else.
No.
You and I go to the LA Zoo,
No.
we look at the lions and we go, okay, let's keep going. We got to get to the monkeys.
Well, but even if you go an Abercrombie and Kent trip to Africa and spend $25,000, you don't get to see that. Because you're not going to spend 2 hours with the lions.
Right.
You're going to spend 10 minutes. Oh, here's the lions. Everybody get a picture of the lions. Okay, we're going to move on to the giraffe.
Yep.
Right?
Off to the next animal section.
On to the next animal. We're going to, yeah. So one of the things that we do differently is spend that time. And that's why I love it so much, because I'm always learning. I'm learning from the guides. I'm learning about what it's like to be African, what it's like to grow up on a farm in Africa. I'm learning about nature and the way that the planet works. I'm learning from our fellow human beings who live someplace else, who grew up in a grass hut.
Yeah.
Right? Sharing, because we're all human beings on this planet. And that's one of the things I'm excited about going to Italy, going to Thailand, is to meet new people
and experience their lives
and make amazing pictures that tell an awesome story. So it's fun.
And that's the thing, is we have this tool that allows us to capture those and bring it back.
The time machine.
Yeah.
We carry a time machine with us, Matt.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Now, if you can only come back with slide night.
I do have slide night. We have slide night. You know
you?
that?
Yeah.
So with the Africa group, we get together. We're looking for a date now in November. We just got back end of July.
Right.
End of August.
Got to get through all your stuff.
Got to get through all your stuff. So we will have a potluck dinner. You bring dinner, you bring some wine, and you bring 20 prints, and we have slide night to show
That's
our
awesome.
pictures from Africa. It's so amazing. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Where do you see the future for photography in like 10 years?
Same place it is now. So one of the things we're really lucky about is that the youngers, right? So high school kids are interested in photography. Photography classes are full at every high school. They're full at Dominguez Hills. They're full in university.
Yeah, every university's got a photo class full.
And they're full. And there's a waiting list. And now they're starting to put prerequisites in. That you can't come to beginning photo class until you've taken journalism and 2 English classes, right? To make it, because they got to do something, or else because the classes are over full. So people are taking photography, and they're not doing it with their iPhones. They're not doing photography classes in high school and college with their iPhones. The kids, and I sound like my dad. Sorry, I apologize. So the high school, college, post-college photographers are interested in quality. You expressed it that your high school and college age kids are buying film cameras. Your son took out your Hasselblad to experience with a Hasselblad. We're selling all the film cameras we can get. We're selling all the film we can get. We're processing the film. But they're also buying, where 10 years ago they were buying Canon Rebels. Now they're buying Canon R5s and Nikon Z7s and Sony A7s.
Right.
They're putting 2.8 lenses on it. They're putting prime lenses on it. They're liking to shoot with the background out of focus and do compositions. They're blending still and video. And one of the things that I see is, I don't know if it'll really happen, but the end of the video camera. I'm glad that we don't do a lot of camcorders, because that business is going away, because my Nikon Z8, your Sony A7 makes 4K video that's better than what you can do on a camcorder these days, right? So I'm seeing that blending of, that melding of still and video into one medium. You see it presenting itself on Facebook and Instagram, right? If you look at my stuff from Africa, I was getting 300 to 400 likes on a still picture. I'm getting 2,000 to 3,000 likes on a video.
Sure. Yeah.
And if you notice what I've done, when on a trip like that, I'll have a live talking video, and then in iMovie, put the stills in there and some music and put it all together. And that's how I'm sharing it, because that's what people want to see. They want to see that 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute video, learn something, enjoy something, experience something. And that's where I see the future is. So we're selling lighting, we're selling microphones, we're selling tripods. All that stuff is really doing well for us, and it's awesome.
Yeah. Have you even thought or looked at AI?
Yeah, I have. It's scary to me, because when you put your stuff in AI, you remember that you're now contributing to AI, right?
You're feeding the beast.
You're feeding the beast. And so I'm not the kind of guy who won't put my stuff on Facebook because I think Facebook is stealing it. But I also, my photography is mine, that I share with you freely. I don't want it to be gone. I don't want it to not be mine anymore. That's a little scary to me. And this is where I sound like my dad again, right? I want my photography to be more organic.
Yeah.
It's just like I don't replace the sky in Photoshop. I do a little cropping, a little cloning, a little color correction. That's it, right? I don't want to talk. I mean, we watched the South Park last night about Chat GPT, right? That was so awesome, right? But because South Park does everything about everything, right?
Oh, yeah. They don't hold back on it.
But do you want to have a conversation with me? Or do you want to have a conversation with me talking to Chat GPT that's having the conversation with you?
Right.
Right? I want my pictures to be my pictures.
Mm-hmm. Mark's vision.
And what I captured, what I actually see. I don't care about, I mean, do I like getting 500 stars on Instagram? Yeah. But is that why I photograph? No.
No.
I photograph for me. I put it out there. I like it when people enjoy my photos.
Maybe this is the way I just don't give a rat's ass. Sometimes my very favorite photos don't get any attention.
Right.
I don't care.
I don't care.
And then I'll put up some random photo. I'm like, really?
That's the one you guys like?
What algorithm made that thing shoot up?
Right, exactly.
But I don't care about the one-handed diving catch. I can get that all day long. Like,
right.
This was a really cool moment, and it got...
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, but it made my life happy.
Right, exactly. So I'm the same way. And so I would much rather, I mean, if I wanted to be a painter, I could use AI.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because I'm AIing whatever I want to be on this canvas.
Right.
I don't have the talent to do that. There's a connection that's lost between my brain and my hand with the paintbrush. There's a connection that's lost between my hand and my brain on the guitar.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work.
Right.
I can work the camera. That's my gift. And I like to share that gift. If you, Matt, want to do AI art, great. But call it AI art.
Right.
Don't call it photography.
My fear, and I talked about this with somebody a couple podcasts ago, is there is going to be an effect in our ecosystem of photographers, whether it's commercial or people that shoot for cars or FedEx, UPS, high-end commercials, where that AI is going to replace them. They're already, I was doing stuff with Kate Spade and Coach, and they've gotten rid of their whole creative department, and they've all moved into AI.
It's just like what happened with, so you could hire photographers, then you could buy stock, and now you just create it.
Yeah.
You just dream it up and make it. Now, you have to start with a photograph. I mean,
right. You'll take a cat or the purse or the whatever. Next thing you know, I want it on this woman and this, and they're there and the beach and the dot.
And she's going to be in Venice wearing this and that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, you're like, whoa.
Well,
why do I have to pay a photographer X amount of money to travel around the world to shoot that?
Right. Exactly. But that's coming. You can't stop it.
Right.
That's what the whole Hollywood strike is about. That, okay, are we going to pay these AI creation people? Are they going to get writer salary? Are they going to get computer salary? Or are they going to be in China working in a sweatshop? Right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I know that battle, and I just hate to say, like, guys, this is not 1980. I'm sorry. You're not making Magnum PI, summer rerun money anymore. Those days are gone.
Those days are gone.
Yeah.
And you got to figure out a new way.
Right.
There's got to be a new way. And maybe stand-up comedy that you can't replace, right? Maybe doing something generic and organic and authentic will be the way.
Did you guys ever sell magazines here? Photo magazines?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
How many you got left? None.
Right? Nobody buys them anymore.
Right. But there used to be, you probably had Popular Photo, Shutterbug,
Outdoor photography, American photographer.
Yeah.
That we had those for all the time.
All gone now.
All gone. Well, no, they're still all in.
But they're online, but you can't walk in and.
No, you can go buy. You can go to Barnes and Noble and buy those. Yeah. But now they produce 100,000 instead of 2 million a month.
Right.
Right?
It's gone.
It's gone.
I mean,
get over it.
Yeah. ESPN magazine doesn't exist anymore. Nope. Sports Illustrated doesn't have a staff.
Nope.
Sport magazine doesn't exist.
Nope.
I mean, it's different. Things will change.
Yeah. You got to find your own way. You have to find the next thing. And
I mean, I had this conversation with Mark Terrell the other night at a Dodger game.
Yeah.
And he's like, I feel safe but I never know. Like the photo industry as journalism could change where they just start to decide the boundaries can shift and AI might be allowed in 10 years. You never know. I mean, the world's going to be so different the way we perceive it in 10 years. God only knows.
Right. But you know what? You have to embrace the change.
Yeah.
Because who didn't embrace the change, Matt?
Kodak.
And where are they today? Gone.
They're making you 50 boxes a month.
Right. Instead of 500 boxes a month. Right. Yeah. So Kodak didn't embrace the change. They tried to stop the change. You can't. The change is coming.
It's coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
If people want to sign up for your classes, come to your workshops, go to Africa with you, again, where can they find you?
CreativePhotoAcademy.com. If they want to buy a camera, they want to learn about cameras, paulsphoto.com.
And if they want to follow you on Instagram?
Mark Comon.
Does the shop have one?
Paul's Photo. Oh, no. Paul's Photo Inc. on Instagram. And CPA at Paul's Photo for Instagram and Facebook.
Okay.
So Mark Comon, Facebook and Instagram. Trying to get markcomon.com up. I had it, but it just didn't go well. It just takes too much love, and I don't have the time, right? But I've got amazing pictures. I want to put them out there. I want people to be able to enjoy them. So that's why I do online.
Yeah, you got to do that.
Yeah.
Your enthusiasm is intoxicating. It's fantastic. Mark, thank you for sitting down with me and talking. This has been great.
Awesome.
I love what you're doing here. Your dad is smiling somewhere because he is very happy that you're keeping this thing going.
And we're rocking it.
And you're rocking it.
Yeah.
And you're still in the community. You haven't done one of those where you put up your satellite extra business in the middle of God knows where. You're just living it right in Torrance.
There's one place you got to come here, and thank God people are still coming here, both really driving here and coming on the phone and coming online. So
who's your longest customer you still see? And you're like, oh my God, it's Kyle. How you doing, Kyle?
No, it's Mark. His name is Mark. And so I got to forget. So he's a couple years older than me.
Okay.
He's not the oldest or the longest, but he's been continuous for the whole time Paul's Photo's been in existence.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So he's a couple years older than me, and he remembers as a little boy coming to the camera store with his dad. And he still comes here all the time.
He's
been here all the time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
He didn't move away. He didn't get married.
He moved away, but he lives in Paso Robles now, but every time he comes down, because he comes down, visits, calls,
That's awesome. Yeah. You need those customers.
Absolutely.
Those are the ones that are great to see. They make you smile.
But the other customer I need, Matt, is the first-time guy.
Sure.
The guy who's heard about us, heard the podcast, going to come down, see what it's all about, saw my commercial on the Kings game. I love those guys. I love to see. I had a girl in here today. She saw my ad on TV, right?
Okay.
It was on the Dodger game. She came in. She had her first roll of film developed, and she can't wait to see how it looks, right? How cool is that? Do you remember your first roll of film?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do.
I
remember taking it to that little Fox box.
Yeah.
Dropping it off.
Yep.
Having to fill out my name.
Yep.
And it was poorly written. And then I waited 3 days, and I was like, oh, my God, I gotta go.
So what was on there? What was on that first roll of film?
Photos of Jimmy Crow riding his BMX bike. We were down at the creek. Yeah. So my dad let me borrow his camera, and we went down there.
Yeah.
And, we'd set up ramps, and we'd creek, and we'd dam water. And
yeah.
I shot 24 rolls because I couldn't afford the 36.
24 shot roll.
That was a lot of money to be the 36th guy. And we shot that thing and I shot all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
To the point where I used my dad's camera so much, he's like, enough of this crap. He got me a subscription to Sports Illustrated, and that came with a little plastic camera.
No.
Yeah, and I shot that thing for 3 years until Jimmy Crow again was jumping his BMX bike and hit the front of it and snapped the whole lens right off.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But these two ladies I worked with a couple years ago as a birthday gift found that exact camera and bought it for me.
The Sports Illustrated camera?
Yeah. Came in the little Sports Illustrated leather pouch. Like, it was so Mark, it was one of those moments where I was 11 again, like
Yeah.
in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
I opened up the box and I saw it and I just started crying.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, oh my God. And I looked at Jennifer and Christina. I was like, you guys have no idea what this means. Like,
yeah.
I'm 11 again. Like,
Yeah.
And this is like the genesis of where photography was for me, where it started.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, thank you so much.
So you got a second?
And
Hold on.
Yeah.
I got
Go.
3 things to show you.
Mark's going to go get 3 things right now. If a podcast could be live, this is what he's doing. The man's been sitting for an hour and 2 hours, and he's going to go get something. It's going to be a surprise. This is the first whammy on the podcast as a surprise. But let me tell you, if you come on down to Paul's Photo, this is a fantastic place in the South Bay. Look him up online. Follow him on Instagram. He was in Africa. He was posting every day. Unbelievable stories. Look at this. He's pulling out relics, old-time photo relics. What do we have here? It looks like a Nikon camera that you would use if you were covering a Union strike that you can kill people with. That thing is a brick. What do we have here? What is this?
This, now.
Yeah, you got to talk into the mic.
Yeah, I got to talk into the mic. This is not the camera, but this is the same camera that my dad gave me when I was 10 years old. It's a Kodak Pony 35.
Look at that
Yeah.
thing. Holy moly.
The original of that is in Lake Godiza up in the high Sierras. I fell into the lake with that camera around my neck when I was 11 years old. And that's where the original one is. It's still in the lake.
Still sitting there.
But that's the same camera. I got one of those that came into the store. I grabbed it. So I shot 7th and 8th grade yearbook with that camera. And I took black and white film of my Boy Scout hikes in the Eastern Sierras with that.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jesus. What else you got? What else is there?
So you were not far off on this. So you recognize that? It's a Nikon F3T.
I had that. Oh,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. This is the camera that took the picture of Mike Tyson biting the guy's ear off.
So that's from Jed?
No, this is from our customer, famous boxing photographer. He's
Al Bello?
No, Japanese guy.
I'm blanking.
Yeah. I can see his face.
Okay.
He gave this to me. Wow. But this is the camera he was Mike Tyson's personal photographer for a long time.
Really?
And that is the camera that took Mike Tyson biting the guy's ear off. Now, probably 6 cameras took that same picture.
Yeah, right.
Because there were a bunch of guys around the ring. So,
ooh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a camera, when you had it around your shoulder or your neck, you knew.
Oh, no, you knew it.
You knew.
And if I would have fallen into the lake with that camera,
you would have drowned.
I'd still be there.
And that's one of these things is when you would run with this thing, you felt it. Like,
oh, my gosh, you would get a bruise on your chest.
Yeah. You know, I don't hate to sound to be sexist, but you had to be a man to man to carry several of these things. Yeah. It was brutal.
It was brutal. So here, you want to see this? This is probably the proudest relic.
I'm getting carpal tunnel just holding this thing. Okay, my God.
All right.
What do we got here? What do we have? Oh my Lord! Look at that young yipper snapper.
Do you recognize that picture?
Yes, that is Neil right there. He's got to be like 16
on the sidelines of the New York Football Giants at the Polo Grounds.
Yeah,
with a Nikon F and.
Browns versus Giants. He's got his little side armband.
Yep.
He's right there at the Polo Grounds.
And look what's on the camera there.
Yeah.
And look what's right here.
How in the hell did you get that lens?
From Neil.
Yeah?
Yeah.
My God, I'm shocked he kept it that long. He didn't trade it off somewhere.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think that he was shooting this thing with a plunger and he had it on a tripod.
Manual focus, manual exposure.
Yeah.
And it's a miracle they got anything.
Oh, yeah. People have no idea the difficulty of shooting back then. Look
there
at
you
this
go,
thing.
Matt.
So what
it's like a 400 f6.3, I forget what brand.
Yeah. 5.6. This thing. Again, this thing, you had to have this thing on a tripod.
Yeah, it weighs like 12 pounds.
Whoa, Look at
Yeah.
this beast.
Yeah. I wish we had smell-o-vision, right?
Yeah. Man.
Yeah.
If this lens could talk.
Oh, I know. What has it seen in its day?
I'd take half of the lens, half of the pictures this thing missed.
Oh, yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
Wow. So what was he auctioning it off, or what was he?
No, he's a customer here.
Oh, wow.
He buys all his stuff from us.
Jesus.
You know, and I have over the years taken, 5 Pelican cases full of stuff from him.
Man.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a sweet man.
Amazing guy.
Yeah.
He promises. So every time he comes to town, we have breakfast. And just, to be able to be part of this industry, Matt, where you get to meet, and I don't know, maybe the ball players, maybe the golfers, maybe the hockey players are like this with their friends. But to sit down and have Neil Leifer, he's been right here 3 times talking to the group, right?
Yeah.
He's working on a new book, so he's going to be back to L.A. to deal with the publisher here in L.A., so he's going to come out again. So, yeah.
Wow.
Just awesome stuff, To have Joe McNally stand right here,
Right.
Just awesome. And to go out and photograph with those guys. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No. Neil has stories. I've worked with them over the years, and the things that those guys did.
Oh, my God. You don't even want to know.
No understanding.
Yeah.
You'll look at the Sonny Liston photo. I've got that in my house. Or Muhammad Ali from the Astrodome.
Yeah.
Weeks of planning, days of preparation, putting things in.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars
Right.
worth of equipment and time.
Yeah.
That's the budget what Sports Illustrated had back
Right.
then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my early days in the early 90s with them working, we all flew first class. We all stayed in 5-star hotels. We all traveled. It was a wholly different world.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
It was just absolutely bonkers.
Yeah. But to think about it, right? So Neil puts that Hasselblad ELM with a 70 millimeter magazine up in the rafters at the Astrodome.
Yeah.
With a wire cable and 70 photos.
Yeah.
To cover that fight.
Right. Which you would get now in less than 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
70 photos.
Yeah.
Plus he had the camera on the sidelines,
Yeah.
right? By the
And
ring.
multiple cameras and setups.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
A totally different time and he's one of those people on that Mount Rushmore of photographers.
Absolutely.
That he was making images, not taking.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right. Because now people try to replicate it. And, now that canvas obviously was white.
Yeah.
Now it's got logos all over it.
Absolutely.
And it really has logos all over it because of the photo he took.
Absolutely.
People looked at it and went, wait a minute.
There's an opportunity.
Holy crap, that's a blank billboard.
Yeah.
Hey, Budweiser, you want to sponsor this thing?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now it's got all kinds of sponsors. DraftKings is on it, and
Yeah.
name that beer, everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unbelievable industry that we get to work in. It's one of those things I would not want to be anywhere else, do anything else.
No, neither would I. I thank God every day for what I have. I thank God for my family.
God, if your dad was a roofer.
I know. Yeah, exactly. I'd have been, right? I'd be retired by now because my back would be out for doing roofing.
No,
right?
you would have stayed in the Air Force, and who cares if you didn't
Right.
fly?
Exactly. But so here I am, this will be my 49th Christmas in the camera store because I started in 1974. Next year will be 50 years in the camera store, my 50th Christmas. And I wouldn't trade any of it for anything. And I'm as excited to get the new photographer, their Nikon Z50, their first Z50, as I'm excited to get, the new sports guy, a 400-2.8 and a Canon R3. It's all the same juice to me to get somebody hooked up and on their way doing pictures.
Right.
So it's all about the pictures, man.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mark, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome, Matt. It's my pleasure.
This has been awesome.
I love it.
That I'm holding Neil Leifer's lens.
I
in my
know.
lap.
Isn't that great? Yeah.
You're the best. Thanks, man.
All right. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you for listening to my conversation with Mark Comon. If you enjoyed this episode, please click and hit the like button. Become a subscriber to the podcast. Remember, you can follow the Just a Good Conversation podcast on Instagram, and you can find all of our past shows on the website at justgoodconversation.com. Thank you for listening.